All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call regular meeting of council to order Monday, October 3rd, 2022. Approval of the agenda, please. Mr. Norbury,
That the October 3rd, 2022 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as presented.
seconder, Councilor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Adoption of the minutes, Tuesday, September 20th, 2022, regular meeting of council minutes. Recommendation, please. Councilor Majinski.
That the Tuesday, September 20th, 2022 regular meeting of council minutes be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councilor Norbury. Any errors or omissions, council? Staff?
None.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Any business arising from the minutes, council? Staff? Thank you. No delegations this evening. Consent agenda, recommendation, please. Councilor Norbury,
That all items in the October 3rd, 2022 consent agenda be moved for information.
seconder. Councilor Kirkowka, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Anything council would like to lift from the consent agenda? Councilor Kirkowka,
7.5.
for discussion. Seconder, Councilor Majinski, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Councilor Kirkowka.
Yeah, I just see the daycares sent a letter and looking for support, so I brought up that. That the district of Tumbler Ridge supports the application to Northern Development Initiative Trust from the Tumbler Ridge Children's Center Society for a grant of up to $10,000 from the BC Hydro Go Fund.
Seconder, Councilor Norbury, discussion. Councilor Kirby.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I reached out to Becky today. It's actually, this fund does not include Tumbler Ridge. So I phoned NDIT, and the proper fund to apply to is the Northern Healthy Communities Fund. And in that fund, it gives, there's a larger amount of money that the daycare can go after. It will also give money towards wages, but it has to be a new wage. But there's $100,000 there in that grant itself. So, you know, I think we could find a new wage to kind of work with. Becky and I have been talking. We're going to keep working on that. It also, that fund has, the municipality could apply for it too. And it also, there's money in there for $500,000 towards a new building. So till the end of the term, I'll be working with Becky on that. I know she's reached out to Michelle Kirby. We don't want to, you know, we got to see what's going on with what happened at UBCM. But at this point, it looks, this fund is looking better than the one that they've got on the table right now. It was just a little misstep on that one. So
Do you see a need for this letter of support then?
well, no, not right now. And if we did, it would be towards this other fund. So the daycare will come back with that.
Okay, so like we need to defeat this then?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. And you know that the Children's Center is always looking for new board members. Councilor Kirby, so.
Yes, I'm all aware of that one.
Yeah, and I would certainly suggest working with the task force members too, just to make
Yeah.
sure that we're not doubling
Yeah.
up on anything. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, any other comments, questions? Councilor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor. Is it necessary to have a letter of support that is targeted just for that fund, or can we have a letter of support standing for them because we know the severity of what's needed in our community? If we could have a letter of support for them, because we don't know when this intake is and what their timeline is on this new fund, or this function, I guess, through NDIT. So, like, if we don't have another meeting and it's going to be delayed a month, and then inauguration, we could be a month or 30 days out or longer, right? So, I think we should have something for them readily available, showing our support some way.
Councilor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I think that the intake for this fund ends at the end of October. So even, you know, it's going to be a struggle just to get the application in. So we'll get the application in, and by that time, I think it'll be the new council, the new sitting council anyway, I do believe.
Yeah, and I think we have till November 7th before the swear-in, so if there is any time-sensitive things, Ms. Torvalds talked to me about possibly a special meeting in the interim if there is any time-sensitive things that need to take place there, so. As far as a blank letters of support, usually the grant applications are asking for letters of support. So in my opinion, I think it would be better to have it targeted for what fund we're looking at or what grant we're looking at. Ms. Torval, did you have any comment?
No, I agree. It's better, it's best to target the support letter, to target the specific grant that's being applied for.
Okay. Okay, so motion on the table, I believe we need to defeat it, so all in favor? Opposed? Defeated, thank you. Any other comments, questions in regards to 7.5? Okay, is there any other items council would like to lift? Councillor Norbury
7.2.
for discussion, seconder. Councillor Kirby, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I think we should continue the conversation with the YMCA and you know, keep in contact. So I think we should be meeting with them. I know that the all candidates meeting, most candidates were in favor of continuing the child care discussion and realize its importance. So I'd like to make a motion that staff arrange a meeting between the YMCA and council at their earliest convenience. We'll leave it there.
Okay. I'm just wondering if the meeting should be with council or if it should be with the task force possibly. Because you have quite a few members on the task force that are working together on the same goal, I would assume. Councillor Norbury.
So I was hoping that we could do this at a PPC meeting, because then we could potentially get everybody in the conversation at that meeting, so we can all sit down, and PPC meeting might be the best place for that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't believe we have any scheduled, so it would probably need to be a special meeting of council, if that was the case. October 14th, you're thinking?
No. The next one was on November.
November 14th, yeah. What's council's thoughts? Are they into a special meeting with the YMCA again, or you have any, does council wish to follow up with them at all? Councillor Howe?
Yeah, I think 14 for the incoming council is, makes sense, so.
Set it up for that? Yeah,
It's a little better than a month away, it gives new council time to be prepped for when they come in, you know.
yeah, that would make
Anything
sense.
that this council thinks that could add to the conversation, I mean, we can get that information to this Torville, and, you know, to me, one thing that would be interesting is to figure out what the wages are down there, have a good idea of what wages are, and have a good idea what income is. You know, we need to have a really good understanding of what parents are paying for their childcare right now, how many spaces are actually available, the ages listed very clearly, and, you know, the DTR is doing a lot for childcare at this point. I've heard a lot of rumors recently that we haven't done anything for them, but we give them a building, we pay for utilities, we pay for phone, internet, you know, there's a lot being given by the people of Tumbler Ridge already, but we need to figure out what we need to do to get a few more bucks out of there, get more ECs in there, and that type of information I think will be critical for the next council going forward to find out how much money we actually have down there and how much money would be needed to be added back in, because it's gonna come down to dollars and cents.
Yeah,
Plain and simple. So.
yeah, and I think the main goal is really to increase capacity in some way, however that might be. So possibly with your motion, Councillor Norbury, if we could add for the next PPC meeting, November 14th, would that be okay,
Yeah, maybe I should reread it again?
please?
Motion that staff set up a meeting between the YMCA and council at their earliest convenience, preferably for the next PPC meeting, November 14th, 2022.
Seconder? Councillor Kirby, discussion? Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor. Will the task force be invited to this as well, or separate?
I think the motion was for council. Obviously, we do have a council representative on the task force that could relay all the information to them as well. but I think this was definitely meant for a meeting with council. Really to brainstorm and discuss. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Lynette suggests we invite the board from the Children's Center as well, so I think it should be a large roundtable discussion with the board, potential people from the task force, give everyone a conversation.
Should we make a amendment to the motion then to include the board or invite the board as well? Councillor Howe?
I would make an amendment, I'd vote on this one and just get this one through and make another motion on myself, but there's an inaugural meeting for council on the 7th. Maybe there's other players that the incoming council wants to invite that we're not thinking about. And so to me, they have the opportunity on the 5th. It is only a week away, but get the word out that there's going to be a PPC meeting and all interested parties should attend. Whether you're asked to speak in it or not, there's an opportunity at the end to have your say as well, right? So if that's, that gives anybody an opportunity to come down that's interested in parents as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a PPC meeting, so it's open to the public, right? Certainly the gallery could join in the conversation at the end if they have questions. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I don't think we need to make a motion to invite them. We can just invite them, can't we?
Yeah, but we should probably give clear direction to staff if they're setting up the meeting through a motion. Any other comments in regards to motion on the floor? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I'll make a motion that at that meeting with the YMCA that staff invite the TRCCS board and interested members of the Tumbler Ridge Child Care Task Force.
Seconder? Councillor Majinski, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any other items on the consent agenda council would like to lift? Councillor Norbury?
7.4, the New Life Assembly Food Bank.
Seconder, discussion, Councillor Kirby. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So the food bank is asking for a change from a Wednesday to a Saturday or Sunday. I think either would be fine, but I'd be interested to hear what the fire department's availability is and where they're at with that. Because ultimately, they're kind of a pretty integral part of the food drive. Those lights and sirens, people love seeing them, brings them out. So.
And the ladder. Don't forget the ladder. Yes, absolutely. We're certainly willing to work with the food bank on any of their requests. And Ms. Torval, I'm curious to hear Chief's thoughts on this request.
Absolutely, Chief Corinne.
Mayor and Council, good evening. So typically we do it on a Wednesday night because I can guarantee operators and attendance. We tend to run into difficulties on a weekend as I have to try and conscript people to attend and take time out of their own busy schedules. I would be willing to work with the food bank as we always have and to try and accommodate the best time. So if that's council's wish, we'd be happy to make that happen.
Council? Councillor Howell?
I would prefer not. I understand that there's a thought or a perception that they may get more food on a Saturday or a Sunday. It's a thought, but if you have to get the volunteer or the firefighters in on a Wednesday and then ask them to come back again on a Saturday, to me, I think it's you're starting to ask a lot of those people that are doing that. To me, stick to a Wednesday. We have a reason why we do it, and there can be an additional food drive that's done without the fire department on the weekend, sometime later on in the week. But this, to me, is why it's been done on a Wednesday, and if it was communicated to them, maybe they would understand the costs involved in doing it as well. They're going to be called out for a Wednesday night to do the fire practice anyway. You call them out for Saturday. What's that going to cost us, right? What's it cost to run the fire truck around town and clean it up afterwards? And every time that thing goes out, it's got to be $1,000.
For sure.
Right? And I don't know if they're paying wages for a Saturday or whatever, but you might be better off suited just taking that cash and giving it to them rather than doing it on a Saturday. So
Yeah, and we have the same situation on a weekend that a lot of people leave town or out camping or out recreating somewhere out in the area too. So I think the disadvantage during the week is quite similar on the weekend as well. But but I'd certainly like Fire Chief to work with the food bank to see if we can accommodate in any way. But I think the I thought it said before Thanksgiving. I was going to say trying to get this done before Thanksgiving is probably impossible. So yeah, after Thanksgiving would certainly be better, I think. But certainly willing to work with them in any way. So not sure if a motion is needed or if we want to make any kind of a change here. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I mean, rather than advocate for the fire department, I'd like to see, from their side if it's possible, if it's feasible. If it's not, doesn't work out, that's fine. But I mean, I do like the idea of the two groups themselves reaching out, see if they can work something out.
Absolutely. Councilor Kirby.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Just a note to staff that hopefully this is on a up and coming agenda, because it does say that their resources are dwindling there and they want food drive soon after Thanksgiving, so that it doesn't get lost in paperwork, that it's presented to council soon and after the election.
Absolutely. The transition time. All right. Anything else from the consent agenda, Council? Councilor Kirkhalter,
7.3.
for discussion. Seconder. Councilor Kirby. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councilor Kirkhalter.
So just want to get some clarity from staff. I understand we spent quite a sum of money down there to clean up, and I believe this is the area we're talking about that was closed, gated, and the lock put on it. In the letter, it states about how they want to use the above ground for storage. I'm just curious from staff side, what are they looking for on an area that we just spent a bunch of money to clean up?
Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will ask Mr. Bradley to speak to this.
Mayor and Council, I guess there was a permitting issue. We believe that it was the East River Regional District's area. We've now been given it back. What we want to do with it is develop a site plan to have a more organized area for above ground storage, so we don't have to store it in our landfill.
Okay. Yeah, this one's quite confusing to me as well. Councilor Kirkhalter, the information we were provided in the past was completely opposite to the letter we have in front of us. So it's quite concerning that now we're finding out the ownership of the land belongs to us now instead of the PRRD, which we were told previously. And now we're able to use a closed landfill site for above ground storage. So I'm kind of confused here, Ms. Torval. If Mr. Bradley has any more information, that would be very helpful.
Thank you. Mr. Bradley, do you have any more information or just
I don't have this time.
how about you, Chief?
Mayor and Council, so as Mr. Bradley alluded, the permitting issue came from the Peace River Regional District when they came to us and they did a site tour. They obviously saw what was being stored on this closed landfill. As part of their process, they were going through cleaning up their permits. They were under the impression it was that site was in fact theirs. After going through and registering against the province, it came to light that no, in fact, the District of Temple Ridge was still the active permittee on that property. As such, under that permit, we are able to keep above ground storage. We can't break the surface on anything. So previously, their concerns were the storage of some aggregate materials and things were strewn about. It wasn't very organized down there, and that's where Mr. Bradley and myself started looking at options for going back into that area, not breaking surface. The lift has already been done on some of that stuff prior to the cleanup, and going back in and keeping things like the brick, the porcelain, our tire storage, things that don't need to be in the actual footprint of the area at the transfer station, so we can get those out for more suitable, organized storage for ourselves. So we still have things we have to follow. We have to annually report as per our permit. We have to identify our actual footprint and map that out and register that with the Ministry of Transportation and Environment. And then, should it be necessary, do water sampling testing on any effluent and runoff that actually goes into that site.
Okay. Questions, concerns? this is interesting, all right. So, as far as we know now, the closed landfill site is owned by the district of Tumbler Ridge and not the Peace River Regional District? Okay. All right, any other comments, questions? As long as we're working closely with the regional district, that's all we can hope for. I mean, there's mistakes on both sides, but I know both staff are committed to setting things right, and hopefully we'll get this right eventually. Okay, moving on to bylaws, 8.1. Delegation of Authority Bylaw 715-2022, report dated October 3rd, 2022. Seeking adoption of the Delegation of Authority Bylaw 715-2022. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
The council adopts the delegation of authority bylaw number 715-2022.
Seconder, Councillor Kirkowka, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. 8.2, Tumbler Ridge Official Community Plan Bylaw number 707-2022 needs to be deferred since we don't have everybody in attendance. Again. Number 9, new business, 9.1. Asset Management, Marmac. Report dated October 3rd, 2022 from the Director of Operations and Infrastructure regarding the asset management, Marmac. I'd like to move this for discussion. Seconder. Councillor Majinski. All in favor? Opposed? Great, thank you. Ms. Torval, I was wondering if we could get a bit of a overview of this, please.
Yes, thank you. I will ask Mr. Bradley to provide that overview.
Back in August, we were able to get everything back on track with Marmac. So we signed an agreement with them. We have two different parts to this program. We have our fund, which takes care of our recreational, and then we have the balance portion of it, which takes care of all the infrastructure. Yeah, with the meetings that we've had, we're moving forward now. Now we just have to work towards getting everything implemented in it.
Okay, so was this program implemented previously and we just let it drift for a little time being, and now we're re-implementing it, Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it was approved in the budget, and it just, with staff turnover, we just didn't get to where we are today. So, yeah, so it's a program for asset management and to monitor from various departments. And some of the employees have had training. Marmac representatives have been to the district, and they've had their training, and so now they're getting their plans in order. Implementing, inputting data.
Okay, so we haven't implemented it previously though?
Not in this program.
Okay.
Not in this program.
So the spreadsheet that we have seen in the past this term with all of the equipment and the 10 to 15 year forecast when it needs to be replaced and how much and all that, that was a different program? That wasn't Marmac?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Howell?
So, correct my memory here, Ms. Torval, 2 or 3 years ago, we hired somebody to do data entry into the system. Basically the valving and the pipes and the diameters, all that information. What system was that we put into? Because that was a lot of manpower in that.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Mayor and Council. That was a lightship program, and we had a person on staff that was just taking all the like you said, all the asset infrastructure, so that's up, and inputting it into that program. Is the lightship comparable or compatible with Marmac, or is it a different? No, it's a standalone. So yeah, so we do have much of the information that it's already been gathered, so it's just a matter of transferring it into Marmac.
Follow up?
Yeah, so this is one of those things that like we up here on council, we see these systems coming quite often, right? And it's like, we don't know the ins and outs of it. You guys do. This is your baby or whatever. But it seems to me that there's always a lot of, you know, the system didn't work for our staff and we're gonna go to this system, this one's not working and we go to this one. Is there any way that we can do something like get something prepared for the incoming council to actually like sit them down and walk them through what the system is? Maybe it's an accounting system that you're utilizing, maybe it's your purchasing software, just some way that they have a bit better of an understanding, like an overview of it, so that you don't feel like when you're in these seats that it is constantly spending money to, okay, that system's not working, let's put 12 grand here and let's do 15 grand here. Like, to me, I don't know how the rest of council feels, but that's the way it feels to me. I think we've gone through how many accounting systems? 3 different accounting or computing systems since I've been in here. Big ticket item. It's not $12,000, mind you. But I just want to make sure, like, I don't really care what we spend on it, as long as it's the right system, that's the best system, that's the most efficient system. That doesn't bother me, but I just don't want to be always having to change systems, and I don't fully understand this. $12,000 seems like a drop in the bucket. I trust Mr. Bradley's overview on this, but to me, for the incoming council, that might be something, you know, well warranted to give them all an overview of how the systems work.
Yeah, absolutely. Ms. Torval, would you say that there is some software that needs upgrading currently? Or would you feel the need to review all of our programs that we're using right now? And because I know there was some problems with Maze and Questica communicating with each other. Those are pretty vital information systems that are going to be incredibly important coming the new year here. So would you feel the need of a review or a motion to ask to bring a report to council with all of these different systems in place? Because I don't really need to know the ins and outs of all of them, but we as council need to know that they're working for staff properly, and if they're not, then they do need to be upgraded, and council will need to be aware of that. Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Mayor. The Questica was having issues with the Maze program, like they weren't communicating in some areas, so those issues have been resolved. So everything is working in those programs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then as far as any other programs, do you feel the need to upgrade any of them at this time?
Not at this time. No, not at this time. We're just getting into the Merrimack software, and I haven't had an opportunity myself to look at that software program because I've been busy doing other things. But from what I understand, it's a good program. It's going to it's compatible with our Maze system, those systems, and it's got the work order systems built in it as well. So it's going to be bring more efficiency for staff and in doing work orders and completion, and you'll be able to input what they've done. And
Perfect. And that was in capital projects for 2022?
yes, it was.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. If we're interested in an overview of that stuff, it might be best until we wait till we get a new CAO and CFO, because they may be knowledgeable about a certain database or system, and they may bring a new one in. I know in my experience, in my world, everybody. There's a lot of people that are offering services and systems, and it's all at a cost. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have a different system 6 months from now because of familiarity that some people might have. So you'd be surprised what's out there.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you very much for the info. 9.2 schedule of meetings. So I was informed by Ms. Torval that there's a possibility that some business may arise during this transition period between now and November 7th for the inaugural meeting of the new council. So I just wanted to kind of prepare council on that thought that there could very well be a special meeting called if there is some time sensitive items that need or do come up. We are looking at about 30 days or a month before the next meeting, so it certainly is a fairly long time period. So we'll certainly give you or try to give as much notice as possible. Ms. Torval, are you foreseeing anything at the moment? Should we be looking at a date right now, or?
Not at the moment. I think it would be better to wait a little while till we see what could be coming up for the agenda for that special meeting. I know I do have a couple of things I would like to bring forward, and that would be an update for you for the strategic plan that staff laid out at the beginning of the year. I'd like to give you a progress report on that, capital projects, those sorts of things. So I think it's important for you to know that. I know that's something that I could email, but it would be nice to have it on record as well. Yeah, and possibly the OCP adoption, I don't know. So, yeah. So we can just play it by ear for now, and as we get somewhere near, we've got items, staff may have things as well that could be coming up, so we'll just play it by ear and watch and be in touch.
Okay. Comments, questions? 9.3, follow-up action list. For discussion, seconder. Councilor Kirkowka, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Torval, for an update on the fuel. There's quite a few old items on this here. I was curious on the first one, Ms. Torval, management of waste collected, including implementation of tipping fees to offset costs. Can you give us an overview of that and maybe jog our memories on that one, please?
Council was asking for, it was when we implemented the recycle program, and council, I think, and there was discussion at the transfer station with regard to tipping fees and about waste going in there, construction waste, shingles, and those sorts of things. And if there was a way to combine everything and to find out what the implementation fees would cost, and for tipping fees, and a plan to offset those tipping fees. Because it was suggested that I know council has heard about getting used scales from another municipality, and then staff has been coming up with some ideas to kind of not do that, but find another way to offset those fees. And they've talked about doing it through the building and plumbing bylaw, so that when someone comes in to have to have a permit to dump the things that we don't normally accept.
Absolutely. Just from my memory, I thought we were looking to get an overview on the recycling program that we initially brought forward, just to see where we're at as far as costs go. And we haven't really been presented any information on how that was even implemented or how it's going, what our costs are, or any of that. So it's really, we have a huge gap as far as information goes in regards to that. We're not even sure if it's working properly. We don't know the contamination levels. There was talk of another blitz on information to the public about what's allowed in there as well. So yeah, that's kind of what I remember. Councilor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and I know we had, Councilor Howe had concerns on the waste oil and the buyback program that was implemented, and I'd like to know where we're at that, if we're actually getting the 30 cents a liter, I think it was discussed, and we're guaranteed that, and if that's actually in effect right now, or what we're doing with our waste oil, and who is buying that. Just an update on some of these.
Well, and we've had a turnover in that director position as well, and previously we were privy to a lot of information from the previous director that certainly is in question at this point. And so in my opinion, I would like to get a report on exactly what's going on down there, because you know, we have some information here and we have some information here, and we have a whole lot of questions here, and we just don't have any information. That's my opinion. Councillor Howe?
Revenue was the big thing for me. How much money are we making from cardboard, aluminum? What happens with our tires? Are we getting any money for our steel? Like, I know there were agreements signed when scrap steel was low. Well, scrap steel has gone crazy now, right? So is there any opportunity there to, instead of paying for this, can we, that was the whole idea there, that we go back to the negotiating board and see at the end of the year, wow, the recycling depot actually makes us $40,000, but we've spent $150,000 per year to put it in place. That's what I wanted for my information on it, right? So
And what we're making on those bales too, right?
any bit of revenue.
There was a big investment in the recycling building as well as the recycling bins and getting that baler set up. We're making phenomenal looking bales, mixed waste. I think the first ones in the Peace Country. And I believe that we're the only community in the Peace that is actually making any revenue on our recycling. Everywhere else is subsidizing it. So, yeah, we have an information gap for sure.
Okay. Thank you. If you would like to request a report, we will
Certainly.
see if that comes forward.
I'm just not sure if I can be specific enough on this one. Any other comments in regards to the fuel? I'll work on the motion here.
We'll just wait for you.
Okay. I'd like to move that council request staff to prepare a report in regards to the Tumble Ridge Transfer Station, encompassing revenues from recyclables, the costs involved with implementing our recycling program, the used oil program. Anything else? Anything else I'm forgetting?
Just all streams of revenue.
All streams of revenue and
All
costs.
expenses.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if staff is working on some creative ideas to try and control the transfer of waste down there, we would certainly be interested in that as well. I have some ideas in that regard, and I'd love to hear what staff is thinking about on that end. Commercial bin wrap, I think we have,
Mayor? We have
Sorry.
to second and vote.
sorry. Yes.
It's the last day, come on.
I made a motion, didn't I? Seconder on the motion, Councillor Howe. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Councillor Kirkhalka.
So just on that, if maybe staff can just give us an overview. So I've been down to the transfer station the last little while. There's been some amazing cleanup happening down there. So when we're on this topic, maybe some just overview, maybe if we can get it. I understand there's a new staff position that was hired. I mean, you're hearing the comments of how well it's cleaned up down there, how nice it looks, how more organized it is. I think, having an update from that part of it.
Ms. Torval?
Mr. Bradley, could the council know what you're doing down there at the transfer station?
Yeah, we were kind of out of compliance, to be honest. When I took over this position, we had materials everywhere. It was out of control as far as I was concerned, and we had to reel it all back in. It's been quite a bit of work over the last 2 months trying to get it to this way, and trying to figure out where everything goes. The shingles were a contention for us, but instead of having them dumped directly into the bins, we've now made a laydown area so that we can minimize how we do that. We've also taken the underbody off one of our tandem trucks so that we can utilize that to get waste out of here on our own, and also using our own equipment. We have had a contractor help to do this, but it looks better, and as soon as if it looks better when you get there, they'll respect it, and that's what I'm kind of hoping up when we get to a point where we can maintain it and do it ourselves.
Excellent. No, I've certainly seen the fruits of your labors there. It's much more organized. It's much cleaner. And I completely agree with you. I think if you enter into that type of an atmosphere, you're going to respect it a lot more. And it's certainly going to look out of place when you drop something not where it's supposed to be. So I appreciate all the efforts down there as well as to the staff. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Commercial bin wrap, in my opinion, should be struck from the fuel. So I'll motion that it's taken away from the fuel. Seconder. Councillor Norbury, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Barclay Group options. Another older one, but not really sure if Ms. Torval, did staff ever reach out to the Barclay Group at all?
Yes, I will ask Ms. Finnegan to speak to this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This was prior to me starting in January, but in the records and communication that I found in our folders, a meeting was held with them in July 2021 with no actual outcomes that I can tell from that meeting. Given that we've had other conversations or inquiries with renewable energy businesses coming through, I've said to Ms. Torval that we'll put this on the investment strategy agenda for next year when we redo the strategy. So certainly worth considering in our new strategies, and obviously there'll be a lot more information on those renewable businesses coming through Fast and Furious now. So still on our agenda, but not specifically with the Barclay Group.
Okay, thank you. Questions, concerns, council? So does staff feel it's needed that it stays on the fuel then, just for reference, Ms. Torval?
I don't think it needs to stay because of other things that are happening.
Yeah, it's certainly an option, right? We have record that we have spoken with them. They will probably follow up with us in
Yes.
our future, I'm sure. Council, thoughts on removing it from the fuel? I'll motion to remove Barclay Group options fuel. Seconder. Councillor Majinski, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. TAC terms of reference, makes sense. There is a new group being formed, so that certainly is understandable. Anything else council wants to talk about on the fuel? Councillor Norbury?
The playground zone implemented on Pioneer Loop.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I mean, I think that we should be having a good discussion about reducing the speed in that area. We have people crossing regularly. It's 50 kilometers an hour where children are on bikes that can easily go out into the street. I think is a dangerous area. I think we should be looking at reducing speed.
Ms. Torval, is it 50 kilometers an hour there or is it 30?
50.
50 there. Oh, I thought it was 30. Okay. Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor. I think it is a good idea, if it is a playground area, to be a 30. And I do believe today staff were putting in the lines for the new crosswalk that's to be put in. I don't know if the signs are up yet, but I think that was started today because I seen that the road was closed, so I believe that's what it was for.
Ms. Torval, any update there?
Mr. Curry?
So, unfortunately, the road closure was actually, in fact, due to a danger tree that was going to come down. So the public works staff closed the road out of precaution and dealt with the tree.
Okay. So, Ms. Torval, the sign is in place, is that correct, for playground?
That is correct. A report was requested back in March by council. Before the report got back to council, sign and all these things were done by
Okay.
previous.
Okay. Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor. So was it the discussion to move the area where the crosswalk was to be from either end of Pioneer to one more central towards the parking lot? Is that not a discussion that we had?
I believe so. Ms. Torval?
Mr. Curry.
So during that discussion, Mayor and Council, there was a whole bunch of things that were talked about. We brought up the fact that we're putting another crosswalk across in this more central location. The problem with that is there's no current letdown in the curb that would be on the actual pump track style. So we'd have to make some adjustments in concrete in order to try and provide that, and then we would have people walking into a crosswalk into that parking lot of the Legion, which isn't ideal either. So unfortunately, like Ms. Torville alluded, there was some work that was completed prior to having council have a much larger conversation about what we want to look at this. If it's council's flavor, we can certainly come back with some more options to council for that, and then also highlight the steps that are required, because they are lengthy, in order to try and do a speed reduction zone that's there. It's not something that, to my knowledge, the municipality can actually do. It has to have Ministry of Transportation endorsements because of the actual speed. There has to be those signs have to be so many feet from either side of the playground zone to allow for the reduction in speed. It can't just be a hard and fast kind of thing. There also has to be advanced warning, and there's some other logistics that has to happen in this.
So with the signs being up listing that it's playground, does that not automatically reduce the speed because it's playground, Ms. Torville?
Mr. Corey?
No, Your Worship, it doesn't. So unless it's posted with 30-kilometer-an-hour signs, all it is a warning to the motoring public that between sunrise and sunset, that this is dedicated as a playground zone. It's a advisory. Without that speed recovery or the actual posted speed saying 30 kilometers an hour, it's not a reduction.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I would like to have that, some sort of report for options there. I also think it'd be a good idea to potentially designate the lane closest as like a short-term parking or something. For drop-off, pickup, people are already doing it. And, I think it's something similar that you already see in like the larger cities like Vancouver. One lane gets taken over by parking regularly. I don't know why we need 4 lanes in that one stretch. We could turn some into short-term parking. That's some options we can come back with a report. For next council to discuss.
Did you want to make a motion? Councillor Norbury?
That staff come back with a report on the implemented playground zone on Pioneer Loop, looking at speed reduction options, as well as potential parking and crosswalk ideas.
Seconder? Councillor Majinski, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Kirkcalka, did you have something?
No, it was already, it was a report that was supposed to come back before stuff was just done.
Right. Okay. I think from memory serves, I think that meeting, that's all we could decide on at that time was a playground sign, if I remember correctly. I know there was a lot of back and forth in regards to what we wanted to do there, and I think the sign was all that we could come up with at that point. So, okay, and emergency evacuation area. Ms. Torville, can you give us an update on that or a refresher, please?
I'll ask Chief Curry. This is to do with the helipad beside
Gotcha.
beside the PIC.
Mayor and Council, so I'm currently working on a report. I've reached out to both air operations at BC Ambulance and with STARS to find out what their minimum requirements would be to regularly land something and what their level of comfortability would be on something that's just built to an asphalt standard. And I'm waiting to come back with some more information from them so we can have that. And then once I've got that, I'll be reaching out to the group that actually came in as the delegation and having a sit-down meeting with them to just kind of find out what their expectations are, and then we can come up with alternatives and everything, put a comprehensive report to council.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that follow-up with the concerned group is certainly important just to get everybody on the same page. And certainly nice that they have brought forward those concerns, and it would be even better if they're able to collaborate as well. So appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, any other comments, questions in regards to the fuel? Okay. Ms. Torville, you had mentioned earlier in the meeting that you wanted to bring some more updates to council possibly before November 7th. Is there anything not listed in the fuel here that you were wanting to update council on?
Mayor Bertrand and Council, this was mostly the capital projects, where we're at with them. I'm still waiting for a couple of reports back from the engineering firm that we've engaged. And then I call it our work plan that we set out at the beginning of the year, where we have each department certain things and their budgetary items and whatnot. Kind of like to do like a report card kind of thing, just to.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't the capital projects be included in the fuel list?
The follow-up action list is usually generated by motions from council during meetings, so it's separate and apart from
Okay,
the other stuff.
gotcha. Thank you. Okay, any other comments, questions? All right, notice of motion. Mayor Bertrand put forward the following motion at the September 20th, 2022 council meeting. I'd like to move the council endorses the work done by Woodland Robbins regarding the CAO search. Seconder. Councilor Kirby, discussion. The reason I put this motion forward was just to formally endorse to the next council coming in of the work that had been done by Woodland Robbins that we undertook, and just for a better transition to the new council. Any other comments, questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Any councilors' business tonight? Sorry, was there any other notice of motions tonight? Councilor's business, Councilor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Had a meeting with the Geopark board this weekend and then the museum. They're getting everything in place to be prepared for the referendum questions and assent voting. So thank you for talking about it at the open forum. I think anybody that's on council or anybody that has any information should pass it on to the voters, how important these votes will be at the next election. And they will be set up here in council chambers. It's a different area from where you're voting for your mayor and council. The PRD will have somebody in the building where you can sign up and vote. So Al Kangas will be the spokesperson for both of those groups. They will be doing news release radio right before the election, closer to the election, just so it's fresh in everybody's mind to get the word out, and how it is and what it is you're gonna actually be voting for. And then I had a meeting with, my last meeting with the NDIT, with the RAC. They will be preparing a package that they'll send to staff so that when the new council is formed, there'll be information on who will be designated to that seat to represent the community. This year, Tumbler Ridge had grants for under the business facade for $20,000. The district also had economic development capacity building was $50,000 grant. Grant writer we had for $8,000. Love Northern BC was a $1,200 grant, and Wolverine North Mountain Society had the Fabulous Festivals and Events grant for $5,000. So this is really small compared to other years. Last year we had the Geopark with the Geo Interpretive Center. The museums usually got big grants, so it's important to not just for someone who's sitting on that board, but for staff to really look into some of these grants, because there's options there. There's a lot of options for nonprofits or the municipality itself. So, I mean, just to be on top of it.
Absolutely.
So,
You mentioned the Love Northern BC grant
yeah.
for $1,200. Where
So
did,
that would be the Love Tumbler, the Love Tumbler. Now, I do believe that's gonna be changed a bit next year, but we used to have someone running that program in town, Mila, and so it was, just to get local businesses together under one umbrella.
Yep.
To promote.
So it's continuing this year then?
Well, it's changed this year.
But
So-
we received the grant?
Yeah,
But
but
having,
next year will be different, yeah.
okay.
The chamber,
Councilor Majinski?
sorry, I think the chamber took that on. If I'm not-
But it'll be a different one. something different next year.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sitting on that board too.
You betcha.
Any other councilors' business? Okay. Question and answer period. Welcome. It's nice to see people in the gallery again. Any questions in regards to tonight's agenda? No? Okay. Thank you very much to both of you for putting your names forward as well. It's appreciated. All right, and resolution to close meeting. I'd like to move that the October 3rd, 2022 meeting be closed to the public in accordance with the Community Charter, Section 91E and J as follows. E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, if the council consider that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. And J, information that is prohibited or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Seconder, Councilor Perkalka. All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. 10-minute recess, please.